Welcome back to the Base Indonesian Show. Back around August of last year, I made a video about Soekarno's personal ideology. And I said Indonesia is definitely an anti-communist country like Taiwan, South Korea, and Argentina, which leads to the discussion that Soekarno took communism and applied it into Indonesian conditions and called it Marxism, which led to the conclusion that Soekarno was basically a commie. But now, we're going to move forward from that and learn why Indonesia became an anti-communist country.
Di sawah saya presiden, malah saya lebih terkenal. Di sawah saya kunti.
Our culture of commie hating was thanks to this guy. Introducing Soeharto. Because the president also happened to be probably commie, he got the post as well. Not really. The CIA didn't like him for playing around too much with Khrushchev. Anyways, flash forward. Now Soeharto is president and started the new order. And that Soeharto was confuzzled as Soeharto spent most of his childhood as a kabupaten kid compared to most of the people in the government like Sukarno and Hatta who spent their childhood as an anak kota surrounded by gadgets and the internet. Soeharto wasn't that bright compared to the rest of the Indonesian leaders, and some of the generals even went as far as to say that they question his intelligence.
Kenapa kamu tanya begitu?
Now, all of those generals are dead and he's president, so who's the chump now? Understanding Soeharto's upbringing, we can see that Soeharto wasn't exactly an intellectual. He despises philosophical discussions and was a man who lived in the moment. His only concern was his immediate surroundings. And Indonesia's immediate problem at the time was money. He might not have the brains, but he knows where to find the money. During his time as the Diponegoro Division officer under General Nasution, he set up various quote-unquote yayasans by illegally taxing businesses and created a circle of strong business friends, including future Minister Bob Hassan. Not only did he know where to find the money, but he also knew how to make friends. Quite the talent for corruption, Soeharto. So, without the brain, what exactly is Soeharto's political ideology? To be completely honest with you, I have no f***ing idea. But I can gauge what his political ideology is. Though he claims he was an ardent believer of Pancasila, he casually oppresses passive socialists and religious movements. He moved to allow the creation of PDI and P3 to control those movements. Meanwhile, he was way too intimate with America, mostly because they had the money. Soeharto was definitely a minion of Henry Kissinger and adopted many economic policies that were pro-free market. While it contributed to the impressive development of Indonesia, it was far from what was imagined of the socialist, nationalist, and liberal patchwork foundations of the Pancasila. Indonesia had become way too capitalist. His appointment of the Berkeley Mafia, a group of Indonesian UCLA alumni that advocated for a Western-style approach to economy, further reinforces his closeness with the West and capitalism. He was also a pleasant guy and always tried looking out for his friends everywhere. Soeharto was a favor for a favor kind of guy, just like me. And with all of this in mind, I think he was an ardent believer of what is referred to as cronyism. Cronyism, or crony capitalism, is a pejorative term used in political discourse to describe a situation in which businesses profit from a close relationship with state power, either to an anti-competitive regulatory environment, direct government largesse, and or corruption. Examples given for cronyism include obtaining permits, government grants, tax breaks, or other undue influences from businesses over the state's development of public goods. For example, mining concessions for primary commodities or contracts for public works. In other words, it is used to describe a situation where businesses thrive not as a result of free enterprise, but rather a collusion between a business class and the political class. Soeharto believed that power and success could only be consolidated not through having people agree with his ideas, but rather having his own people sit in agreeable places. That's why Soeharto was always a family man, and Indonesia was his family business. All of his kids took part in the government and the business. Banyak anak, banyak rezeki, apalagi kalau anak-anak dirut dan menurut. With all of the people he trusted on the top of high places, Soeharto was sure to develop the Indonesian economy and make more money. In order to satisfy the political discourse, he slapped the label of Pancasila democracy as his official ideology. But in reality, it wasn't. People who disagree with Soeharto often disappeared in the middle of the night or found themselves reenacting Tommy's death from The Godfather, but with real bullets. Indonesia was far from a democracy, and you can disagree all you want with the new order, but if you don't like the country, then move away. So they help you off the country by throwing you into the sea. The only people who can disagree were Soeharto's friends. Even then, after a disagreement, you'd probably get shipped off to Sulawesi. Commander of the Indonesian Armed Forces, Benny Mordani, found that out the hard way. Diplomatically, Soeharto was friends with the United States. Soeharto cut all ties with communist powers during the Cold War except China, since Nixon really liked China. And this bond of association continues strong until today. Many Indonesian military officers were sent off to America or Germany to study. At some point, Soeharto even invited the Mossad to train Indonesian security forces, which led to plenty of Petrus cases. So compared to the commie lover Sukarno, Soeharto was a NAFO bro. Despite morally bad political practices, Soeharto and his cronyism actually brought Indonesia's economy upwards. GDP per capita grew 545% from 1970 to 1980 as a result of the sudden increase in oil export revenues. From 1973 to 1979. From 1989 to 1997, the Indonesia economy grew by an average of 7%. It came at a high cost in terms of weak and corrupt governmental institutions, severe public indebtedness through mismanagement of the financial sector, rapid depletion of natural resources, and culture of favors and corruption in the business elite. Cultural favors? He practically amplified our gotong royong culture up to its logical extreme. Despite his history, Soeharto arguably left a lasting impact on Indonesia more than Sukarno did through his Repelita policies. Soeharto was also responsible for turning the Indonesian armed forces into a strong political element within Indonesia and ensure that the military would always stand equal to civilians, opposing the civilian rule over the military. Notoriously, he allowed the Duifungsi ABRI, which allowed Indonesian military generals to take civil positions and become politicians. He also turned a trade union called Soksi into Indonesia's very own yellow peril, the Golkar Party.
Ikan hiu naik Golkar. We love you, Golkar.
Soeharto ruled Indonesia through an alliance of the army and the Golkar Party. But these days, the Golkar Party is a shadow of itself. And while business plays a huge role in Golkar membership, Golkar has embraced developmentalism, a practice of building economy through market protection. Golkar, they should actually they should rename themselves not Golkar anymore, but Golka, golongan karya menjadi golongan kaya. I've been talking about all of this, but why is everything I'm saying, it feels like deja vu? Why is it so familiar? Where have I seen this before?
Subscribe to the Based Indonesian Show. Dijamin halal